Hey, I'm Ariam, and this is everything I read in April of 2026. So it was a really readathon. So I read a lot, and I read a lot of different genres and age ranges too. So starting overall, I read 22 books, not counting Batman comics. If we count Batman comics, then I read 29 books. I'm not counting Batman comics for the age ranges or the genres. So for age ranges, I read 9 adult books, 5 picture books, 4 middle grade books, 3 children books, and 1 new adult book. Then for genres, I read 7 realistic fiction, 5 fantasy, 2 historical fiction, 1 science fiction, 2 speculative fiction, 1 biography, 1 romance, 1 mystery, and 1 memoir. Now let's get into the actual books. So for Batman comics, I'll just run quickly through what I read. I read Batman number 409, Batman number 490, Batman number 491, Batman number 492, Detective Comics number 659, Batman number 493, and Detective Comics number 660. Then, in order of non-Batman comics books, what I started with a bunch of picture books. I read Library Mouse by Daniel Kirk, also illustrated by him. I did not like the illustrations of that one, and the story was just eh. Then I read Baba Va Organuz by Shai Charka, which is a picture book, not picture book, it's a comic actually, and this is also written and illustrated by Shai Charka. It was okay, could have been better. Tuk 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 Tufkin Bederet, written by Dvora Buseri, and Ethan Aro, didn't like it either. I did like Baba Va Organuz, but some of that is just my nostalgia for Baba. Then I read a book that was one of my favorites of the month. A picture book, which was Welcoming Elijah, a Passover Tale with a Tale, written by Leslie Newman and illustrated by Susan Gall. This had lovely illustrations, it was a cute story, and yes, it was exactly what you expected, but you want books to be exactly what you expect, sometimes, and it had lovely illustrations. And then I read another picture book, The Simcha, written by Ayn Hillel and illustrated by Ruth Sarfati. I did not really like the illustrations, and the story I didn't love it. Then, coming out of picture books, I read Superwoman, 6 Scientists Who Changed the World by Lori Layler. This is the biography book I read. It's biographies of 6 different women scientists from the 20th century. It was okay, but I definitely felt it could have been better researched. Then, going back to books I loved, I read The Yiddish Policeman's Union by Michael Chabon. I put this in mystery for this one, but I think for my own docs, in this video I wrote it as mystery. I think in my own docs I wrote it as speculative fiction. It's both, kind of. It's alternative history where during World War II, Jews were allowed to set up an autonomous region in Sitka, Alaska. This book happens in the early 2000s, and the United States is saying that the autonomous region cannot be autonomous anymore. And basically the Jews have to find somewhere else to go. But that's not the main part of the story. The main part of the story is we're following this depressed police officer who is on the case of this guy who's found murdered in the same hotel as him. And this guy turns out to be a former scion of a really rich and important family. I absolutely love this. It's just one of those books that you just need to think about so much. I loved it. Then I read Beach Read by Emily Henry. I did not love this. I know a lot of people love it. I just found the main character to be so annoying, and I did not want the romance to happen because of that, and that kind of misses the point in a romance. Then I read Winds of Change by Mercedes Lackey. I'm not really going to say much about this because it's so far in a series, but I do have a reading vlog about it. Well, I don't have it out yet, but it will be out at some point with God's help. Then I reread Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, and I reread it, so obviously I loved it. Wuthering Heights is great. Then I also reread Spellbinders in Suspense, which is edited by Alfred Hitchcock. This is another one of the speculative fiction books. It's short stories that Alfred Hitchcock thought of as suspenseful includes ones I really, really love, like The Birds by Daphne Maurier, and ones that I thought were not as great, but they're all, I would say all except for like two, are at least okay. As one of the, I usually don't reread anthologies, but yeah, I do. And obviously I kept this book. I usually would throw out anthologies, but no. Then I read Julia's Wolves by Jean Craig George and illustrated by John Schoenherr. I did like this book, however, it is, again, it's not well researched at all, and it's basically, as far as I can tell, it's so unwell researched as to be disrespectful, so yeah, wouldn't recommend it. Then I read The Annual Migration of Clouds by Premi Muhammad. This is the first in a series. Speaking of series, I have not mentioned any series until now, but this is the first in a series that I'm not planning on continuing. This is a science fiction where basically the electricity has gone out, climate change has changed stuff, and it's a novella where we're following our main character who's just gotten a letter of acceptance to this mysterious university, and she's debating whether or not to go. It was okay, but I liked it fine, but I didn't want to read any more books. Like, I wasn't interested enough to continue reading more books in the series. Then, another person in the series that I was interested in reading more, I read Chilling Effect by Valerie Valdez. This is another science fiction book. This one was much larger, and it's about this ship captain whose sister is kidnapped by these people who are holding her for ransom, except the ransom that our main character has to do is not to pay money, but to do all kinds of missions for them, which obviously are dangerous. And this book was not the best written ever, but I really, really enjoyed it. I loved a lot of aspects of it, so I do want to continue. Then another one, and it's such a surprising favorite, I read Esther's Best Surprise Ever by Miriam Walfish and illustrated by Lydia Luchuk. This is another first in a series. Oh no, right? But it was so good. This is a historical fiction about a Jewish girl living in the 1690s in Amsterdam. And there is like a little mystery here. But I just thought it was such a good book. I loved it. It was well written, which surprised me. The illustrations weren't amazing, but it is a small press, so I'll let it go. And I thought, I absolutely love this book. Then I read a book, middle grade book that I did not love, which is Miracle on 49th Street by Mike Lupica. This is the second Mike Lupica book I've read, and I don't think I want to read anymore because it just feels like the scenes have no connections between them. Like, they're just scene, then scene, then scene. Then another middle grade I read, which I did not love, was The Witch of Woodland by Laurel Snyder. This is a Jewish one, which is disappointing because obviously I want to read it, but I just felt like the author was trying to write a book about something that she really need to do more research about. Hey, that's like a big complaint of April, that the authors did not do enough research. Interesting. Then I read Persepolis by Marjane Satrapi. I feel like everyone and their mother knows what this is about, but this is basically a comic memoir about this woman who was a child during the Iranian Revolution. It was not that good. Like, I only read the whole thing because it was comic form. If this was in prose form, I would definitely have DNF'd it. It was boring. I'm sorry, but she wasn't interesting. She wasn't interesting, and she made the Iranian Revolution boring. I've read two way better books about the Iranian Revolution. And, like, she thinks that she's so smart, and she's not. Then I read The Wolf of Orniaro by K.S. Vioso. This is another first in a series that I'm not planning on continuing. So I did like this book, but it's really long. And then the next book is even longer. Like, the next book is over 600 pages. And it didn't interest me enough to read a 600 plus page book. Plus, it definitely had, like, mistakes that I was wondering enough mistakes that I checked if it was published independently or by a small press, but it wasn't. It was published by a major publisher, one of the big five. So why were those mistakes left in? But I did enjoy it. Like, I would recommend it. I just don't want to continue it myself. Then, for actually continuing the series, good job me, I read Hair Today, Gone Tomorrow by Nancy Krulik, illustrated by John and Wendy. You're in my video. You're in my video that's going to go up on YouTube. You are? Do you care? Okay. So this is a Kitty Kazoo switcheroo book. And the Kitty Kazoo Switcheroo books are early chapter books, which follow a girl who one day in 3rd grade has a terrible day and makes a wish to be anybody but herself. And in every book, she is switched into someone who is not her for a little while. And obviously things go horribly wrong because she's usually switched into an adult. In this case, she is switched into a hairdresser. And she's 10. She does not know how to cut hair. But this is one of the Kitty Kazoo books I liked more. I talked about this in quite a few videos because I've read quite a few Kitty Kazoo books, that there's a thing in the Kitty Kazoo books where she makes a mistake because, she's 10 and in the body of an adult. And then like she has to make up for it, and it gets annoying after a while because like she's 10, But this one, I think it was handled better than in some of the other Kitty Kazoo books. It really kind of depends on how it's handled, doesn't it? Then I read Murakami All Free Tonight by Premi Muhammad. I liked this. It's not like the first Premi Muhammad book I read was The Butcher of the Forest, which is so amazing and good that I know no other book that Premi Muhammad writes can ever stand up to it. But this one is my second favorite after The Butcher of the Forest. This is a novella, maybe even a novelette. It's very short. It's 80 pages. But it's a speculative fiction where we're actually following a prostitute, and her coworker is murdered, but then comes back to life and is like, I'm going to go get revenge on the person who murdered me. Now, the thing I found super, super interesting about this book is that the main character that we follow is not into this murder revenge revolution thing. She's just like, I'm just going to let things happen as they are. Like, she's not happy about things being the way they are and so corrupt and stuff, but she does not care to do anything about it, which is also why it's so good that this book was 80 pages, because it's a perfect character for 80 pages, but if this book was 200 pages, you would already get annoyed at her. Lastly, I read Hannah's Way, which is a picture book written by Linda Glazer and illustrated by Adam Gustavone. This is actually, I wasn't sure whether to put this in historical fiction or biography, or historical nonfiction, basically, because this is basically a true story about a girl who's the only Jew in town, and she wants to go to a class picnic that's being held on Shabbat, but she can't because the only way to get there is a car. So basically it's about her struggles to find out how to do it, and I did not like the picture book, unfortunately, disappointingly. I thought it was kind of bland, both the text and the illustrations. But yeah, those are all the books I read in April. I continued one series at least, even though I did start one as well.